WONKA from Paul King. It's a musical comedy about the origin of the world-famous chocolatier. That's right, this is a musical. I feel the need to clarify that because studios are getting increasingly better at shrouding this in their trailers just because of the general aversion most people have to them. I would not say that there was an obnoxious amount of them, though. There was a tasteful and minimal number of them. They actually kind of tapered off toward the end of the second act, I want to say. So in this movie, we follow a young Willy Wonka played by Timothée Chalamet. We see very quickly in this movie how very joyful, ambitious, and selfless he is, which are of course very good things to inspire in the many young viewers that will inevitably be filling the bulk of these theater seats. He arrives at this city where he is certain that he will open a very successful chocolate shop, but he is unfortunately stifled by a couple of con artists and the big chocolate corporations that have already been dominating the market. So there are three big chocolate companies here that of course emulate big corporations that seek to bury any potential competitors with their wealth and power. There's a strong theme of industry versus artistry here. We see this young, passionate, ambitious chocolate maker doing what he can to fulfill his dreams and get his product out there. All the while, he is trying to navigate these companies that are trying to suppress his business through any means necessary. This is a family movie, so while the kids get to relish in the fun musical numbers, the silly jokes, and explosions of color on screen, this movie speaks to the parents watching by drawing these obvious parallels between the chocolate companies and the real-life corporations that impact small businesses. I know it probably sounds like I'm reaching a little bit because it's just a family movie about silly little chocolate makers, but they do have to make the movie entertaining for adults somehow, and I thought these parallels were pretty obvious. There were even a couple of jokes that were aimed specifically towards adults, not that they were inappropriate. For an example, there's this one bit where a guy eats a magical chocolate and has these crazy side effects that were only really funny because they were relatable to adults that have experience with partying and making bad decisions. So being a 29-year-old with no kids, there's not a whole lot of humor in this movie that's tailored to my demographic. So I can say that I only laughed a couple of times. And I mean really actually only like twice. Most of the humor seems to aim for a younger audience. So while there is humor throughout the movie, most of it will seem really dry to the older viewers. For an example, like all of the jokes in the trailer.
How do you like it? Dark, white, nutty, absolutely insane.
Similarly, there is a lot of absurdism that will certainly charm the younger viewers, like magical candy that makes you levitate, or Willy Wonka keeping things in his hat as if there's a portal in it. And to further add to the fantastical nature of the film, a lot of the performances are very extra, some of which are of course a bit campy. So when I first saw this trailer, my first thought was, I'm just not sure if Timothée Chalamet was right for this role. And now having watched the movie, I still stand by this. He's not a bad actor by any means. I just don't think that he naturally has the right amount of flair that a character like Willy Wonka should have. I personally think that a very flamboyant, up-and-coming actor would have been a better choice. For a character like this that is already very well known, you don't really need to cast a big star to put people in theater seats. This movie has great production design. The gallery's gourmet, Wonka's shop, the big chocolate companies. This coupled with the great costume design made this movie feel very big and majestic. And the cinematography was good for the most part. This might sound a little bit nitpicky, but there were a handful of close-ups where I noticed that the subject's face was just slightly out of focus. There were shots where I think the focus puller was using the subject's hair or part of their hat as the point of reference for pulling focus, so their actual face was just slightly blurry. To clarify, this didn't ruin the movie for me by any means. It's just something that I noticed and found a bit distracting at times. I just kept thinking, come on, just pull it in just a smidge. So getting through this movie was getting a little bit hard leading up to the climax. It's a very predictable story and the dry humor just wasn't really keeping me interested. But once we get to the closing scenes, it does deliver a couple of beautiful moments that pull on the heartstrings, so it at least ends on a good note. Unlike Tim Burton's movie, which for me felt like it sat right in the middle between for kids and for adults, this one skews a little bit to the right, which shouldn't really come as a surprise considering this character's source material is a children's book. So before I give you my rating, I want to touch on who this movie is for, because any time in recent months where I've brought this movie up in discussions, everyone's response was always the same. That movie looks terrible. I've been saying it throughout this video, but I really want to drive this point home because I think it went over a lot of people's heads. This movie is primarily for kids. Willy Wonka, since Roald Dahl's children's book, has always been a character made to entertain little ones. But for some reason, I kept hearing people say and reading in YouTube comment sections that this movie looks bad and cringy. I mean, it's a PG family movie. And I do recognize that adults can enjoy PG movies and can differentiate a good one from a bad one. I'm just saying that dunking on a family movie after only watching the trailer, to me, that just sounds like, dude, Paw Patrol looks terrible. It looks so cheesy, it doesn't look funny at all. I mean, that's fair, it's just, you know, that movie's just not for you. So rating time, with all things considered, both the good and the bad, I would say that for me personally, this movie was just fine. It has its small delights here and there, and it will certainly evoke a strong desire for some chocolate. If you like feel-good movies with light humor and PG ratings don't deter you, then you might enjoy this one. But if you are in your 20s and you don't have any kids, then let the trailer sell the movie. If it didn't lure you in, then it's probably not for you. Thank you for watching this review. If it brought you any value at all, please consider giving it a like. It really does help the channel grow. I'll see you later this week with my reviews of Poor Things and Aquaman 2.